Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I know I'm a little bit late, but I was doing these medical illustrations on fat cells, so lipids. I'm finally done with that. I can focus on something a little bit more intense, which concerns human sexuality. So I'd like to thank the big bad red mantis for giving me the suggestion. And yeah, let's begin. So I pulled up an article that I seen floating on Facebook, those this one's from the Independent, but I'm sure you've seen your versions of it. And this is titled, Yes, Contraceptives Have Side Effects, and it's time for men to put up with them too. So, very kind of, how to say, female focused perspective, a little bit like, oh, you have to feel the pain as well, no empathy, no facts, just a kind of agenda driven article. Now, I was kind of disgusted reading it, but I skimmed through it. And one part which really got to me was here, but the trial of the drug has already been halted because just 20 of the men out of 320, don't forget, found the side effects of the injection intolerable, and it was decided that more research needed to be done to try and counteract them. Those side effects included depression, muscle pain, mood swings, acne, and changes to the libido. So now she brings up how women suffer them, and poor men cannot handle the side effects. Again, it says here when it comes to contraception, medicine clear bias towards men. Obviously, women are not forced to take contraception. I don't do it myself because I don't like the idea of hormones, and it's nothing that I want to deal with, and there's other methods of birth control. It depends what you're most comfortable with, and most contraceptive options are offered to women. So men have condoms, vasectomy. There's been this sort of development of this little gel you can put in the vas deferens, so that's the tube that connects from the testes to the urethra where the sperm ejaculates. So it's like a little stop, and it sort of destroys the sperm that's going to exit. I mean, there's that, but there's how to say no, I guess, hormonal male birth control, which is actually one of the reasons why this research was started, to sort of give an unmet need to the population, so offer people more choice. So looking at this article, basically complaining about women having to experience these side effects. Again, women's problems. Like, I feel like this entire article doesn't give that much information about the trial itself and like why it was halted, as opposed to what women suffer. And obviously there are side effects, and but it's another topic altogether. I mean, obviously they can be related, but if you're going to be talking about the male contraceptive, I don't understand why most of the article is about female contraception. So that was that, and this was sort of the average common article that I seen posted online. And now, as a proper researcher, I decided to find the actual article on the trial, which here it is: efficiency and safety, of an injectable combination hormonal contraceptive for men. So this is the actual trial, and I'd like to note right here that the trial was stopped because, following the recommendation of an external safety review committee, the recruitment and hormone injections were terminated early. So it wasn't the men themselves of the trial that stopped this, but the people overseeing this, and they saw that it was not worth to continue this research project. Which I guess is in good measure. Nobody should be subjected to a drug or medication if it's not working as it should. And so let me begin. Let me try to explain to you a little bit this trial, why it didn't work out, and my opinions on hormones and hormonal contraceptives. Obviously, if I like regular hormones, they make us sexy to each other, so that's always a good thing. All right. So Now, so the main objective, so the reason for this study was that they wanted to um, stop sperm production in men, so make them infertile by administering progesterone and testosterone. All right, so that's simply a very simple sentence there. So for this trial, they used healthy men between ages 18 and 45, also healthy partners, no fertility problems. All right, now before I get into how it works, I feel like I have to explain a little bit of the brain and testicle connection, or ovaries connection. In my case, I don't have any testicles, at least not my own. So yeah, let's take a look at this simple version, and then I'll get to the more advanced one. So what happens? In our brain, there's a gland called the pituitary gland. I know I'm like pointing here, which makes no sense. If you follow the mouse on the screen, you'll be able to see it. So the pituitary gland is located here in the brain, and it makes these hormones called FSH and LH. This is follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. So not to get into too much detail, but what those two hormones do, they travel through the bloodstream towards the testicles, or actually everywhere else, but testicles is one of the areas that it travels by, it affects. So it affects testosterone production and sperm production. Now, the beauty of this system, which you will be able to see here, again, these are not testicles, this is still the pituitary gland, even though it might not look like it, is that when it sort of stimulates the testicles to produce sperm and testosterone, once that testosterone is released into the blood, it affects the brain and the pituitary gland and hypothalamus, which is also something that affects the pituitary gland, in a sort of a negative feedback loop. So once enough testosterone is produced, it stops the pituitary from producing FSH and LH, which reduces testosterone production. And once testosterone is reduced, there's nothing inhibiting the pituitary gland from producing the hormones again, and so the cycle continues. So it's kind of like negative feedback, which is very important to maintain health, and so this will sort of kind of give an explanation of how the hormones, the injection of the hormones work to suppress testosterone production. But this brain testicle connection is very important to maintain good physical health. And physical health is also optimum for reproduction. So if you're optimized for reproduction and have testosterone being produced by the right amounts and affecting the brain in the right way, you're going to have a healthy, horny man who wants to reproduce, So what essentially the drugs do, they introduce testosterone and progesterone, which is not talked about here, into the mix. So, oops, that's another pituitary, like where it's located. So what happens is into this self-functioning system that has this feedback mechanism, you introduce an outside source of testosterone. So now the brain thinks that your testicles are producing a lot of testosterone and they have to put a stop to it. So in order to put a stop to it, they stop the production of FSH and LH, and this sort of hampers the production of sperm as well. And that's essentially what happens. As for why progesterone was also included in the injection for the contraception was that some people believe, or there's been some studies done, that it hampers sperm production directly to the testicles. It didn't really explain how, but that's what happens. So this progesterone and testosterone, the outside testosterone, sort of disrupts this feedback mechanism, and the progesterone also disrupts it and affects the testes directly. So if you really think about it, the side effects of this contraception, this hormone contraception, plays a big role in creating an unhealthy relationship between the brain and the testicles, inadvertently affecting the rest of the body, because testosterone in men and also to some extent in women, affects many parts of the body. It doesn't only affect the testicles and the brain. The testosterone also goes to the muscles, to the bone, to the skin, all these areas where they have the testosterone receptors. It has the ability to affect of gene production, and gene production affects protein production, and protein production affects how healthy we are and how all the different mechanisms, there's thousands of them in our body, how they act. So obviously, if you're going to introduce the source of testosterone into the bloodstream, disrupting this whole mechanism, you're going to have an unhealthy body, which makes sense why there's all those side effects, I believe in the article here, if we go back, they had a whole list of them. If I remember correctly, one man committed suicide. One man, I think it was only one, still hasn't had his fertility back, so he's still infertile even after the cessation of these contraceptives. So here you can see what happened. So a lot of acne, injection site pain, gynecomastia, headache, night sweats, irritability, fatigue. So you're getting a whole range of symptoms, and these are because, again, you have disruption of this normal hormone connection between the testicles and the brain. I would also like to add for the fact, because this article mentioned how women suffer a lot from this too. I think a big difference is that, again, I myself am not a big fan of hormonal contraceptives, because I think they give too big of effect for the entire body and are not localized enough to the sort of not genital region, but like our gonads, so testes or ovaries. So it's not as sort of say efficient, that affects too many different other organ systems. It does work, but it does also give the side effects. Now, for women during pregnancy, they do have a higher level of progesterone and estrogen, so it kind of mimics that kind of state. However, for a man, there is not an instance where he has such a high level of progesterone and testosterone at once, unless, they give him that injection. There's never like a physiological moment in time where he has so much of that. I was trying to look up testosterone, progesterone, estrogen levels in a man, and one article I was able to find was the fact that, obviously men have higher testosterone in the morning, which is, morning boners and all of that. But other than that, it's very self-sufficient. And if you introduce this testosterone, it doesn't mimic anything that could be found naturally, and it creates all these health effects. And I guess it doesn't make the man healthy also for sex, because testosterone is very important in sexuality, libido, behavior. It's again, this hormone is so important and affecting so many organ systems that if you just want to have a contraceptive, I think you should go for something more like specific. The study was halted for good reasons. I think it says more than 75% reported being at least satisfied with the method and willing to use the method if it was available. So, some people see it as an option. Again, it also depends on the person and how they interact with the hormones and what kind of side effects they get. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty more research. I myself would think that it would be better to do something more specific, like, for example, that gel that you can inject into vas deferens. Obviously, it's a bit more surgical method, but it doesn't, affect your testosterone production and the whole connection between your brain and your testicles. But I feel the same way also about the female contraceptive. It also creates certain problems with hormones, and I mean, it makes sense naturally because when somebody is healthy, they're sort of most of the time optimized for reproduction. And if you destroy this optimization for reproduction, you will give out a signal physically to your partner or partners that something is wrong. So again, you also do not retain your attractiveness. So yeah, that's pretty much what I had to say on the subject. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope I enlightened you a little bit. I hope it made sense. And if you have any more topics that you want me to discuss about, sexuality, or anything that's in the news, to like try to give you the sources, I will also paste these into the description box so you can check them out for yourself. Because I think it's very sad, obviously you're going to get more clicks, you're going to get more shares if you have a story with an agenda as opposed to somebody that's like me, kind of describing how the brain and the testicles all connect with each other. It's not as intriguing, I think. But yeah, thank you so much for listening and for waiting for this video. Do let me know what you want to talk about next. I think there were some other suggestions. I think something about feminism. So I'll try to check that out. And yeah, thank you and have a good day.